Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White were having a heated discussion at halftime. Word in the street is Caitlin Clark told White to sit Kelsey Mitchell and Howard because they don't pass. Could be true. Caitlin went to tie her shoe. Like, that is something that I noticed. Like, Caitlin literally, when Natasha Howard had the ball, she didn't even look. She was basically walking back on defense. She essentially walked back on defense every time.
In addition to dropping buckets, Caitlin Clark accomplished more. She started by dropping fire in the locker room. Prior to setting the Dream on fire, she allegedly got into a furious dispute with Coach Stephanie White that had everyone perspiring. Was it sass, strategy, or just plain mayhem? In any case, was the subsequent takeover so brutal that Atlanta blinked twice? Hold on tight, for nobody anticipated this heated drama turning into a highlight reel. Let's engage in the chaos.
No surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when the offense was ran through Caitlin Clark. There's no surprise that the offense looked best tonight when we pushed the ball off of a make, pushed the ball off of a miss. There's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when Caitlin Clark was surrounded by players that don't have an ego, surrounded by players that said, I'm gonna be MVP of the WNBA this year. You see how easy it is when you just let Caitlin play ball and others follow.
Caitlin was mid-aim, the crowd shouting, the energy throbbing, and she chose to tie her shoes casually in front of the Fever bench rather than cutting or calling for the ball back. Slow and methodical, as if she were getting ready for a fashion show rather than a live WNBA game.
Why?
Since she was previously aware that the ball would not return. Not from Howard. Not within that lifetime.
You can see Natasha Howard. Natasha Howard looked off Caitlin Clark to end the third quarter. She looked off Caitlin Clark to end the third quarter in what was just incredibly dumb play. And again, if you didn't see here, Natasha Howard looks off Caitlin Clark to run to nowhere, takes 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 steps, does the cha-cha slide, and gets it to Caitlin Clark with 3 seconds to go, and she has to shoot a tough step back. Instead of letting Caitlin Clark push the pace and go and hit someone with an assist or something.
Caitlin wouldn't have seen the ball again, even if she had submitted a change of possession report to HR. This type of passive-aggressive moment cries loudly without producing any sound, because laces had nothing to do with tying shoes. It was a knotted letter of resignation. A humorous break in the middle of a game that implied, in some way, do as you please. You guys obviously don't protect property, so I'll be over here guarding my ankles.
Performance from Caitlin Clark in what was an encouraging win for the Fever over the Dream. You know, the loss to the Golden State Valkyries would have you thinking the Fever need to be relegated and kicked out of the WNBA. But that's why you don't crash out too hard after one bad game. It's been an inconsistent ride for Indiana and for Clark as well, who's had to fight through a lot of injuries. But I think the encouraging thing from Cece was the fight that she showed on the floor. Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her 3-ball yet. But what she did...
At this point, the layers begin to come off like flimsy old locker door stickers. Howard doesn't intentionally overlook Caitlin. She turns it into a full-fledged side mission. Oh no. I feel that I, myself, and I the musical are being dramatically reenacted in every possession. Starring Melissa Howard with no supporting actors at all. Ignore how the ball moves. Forget about team dynamics. This talent show has only one woman. Additionally, Caitlin is really a prop.
We had Caitlin off ball and sitting a lot. Sitting on the bench, rotting away in the first half, and the second half where, oh my God, she's in the game. Oh my God, they're giving her the ball. Oh my God, they're letting her dictate tempo. It's not rocket science, folks. It really is not. Oh, did I forget to mention the Indiana Fever beat the Atlanta Dream 99-82. The Atlanta Dream come into Indiana and walk out with an L as we celebrate with a...
It's crazy because Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the league on a wave of publicity. She is more than just a scorer. Her mere presence practically pushes boundaries, making her a playmaker and a walking highlight package. There is a subtle misconception that Caitlin is just a loud new model with bright headlights and that Howard is the true franchise engine and alpha in the room. The only distinction is that Caitlin Clark has a built-in highlight reel, GPS, and horsepower. Howard, her eyes are still closed as she attempts to parallel park. And it's seen by fans. Yes, they perceive it as if it were playing continuously in 4K. You can feel the offense fading in real time as soon as Howard touches the ball, much like when you watch someone apply the brakes hard during a fast break in order to review the playbook in midair. After that, Caitlin is likely tying her shoes, going to the corner, or mentally calculating sophisticated statistics to ease the discomfort.
Let's start off with this, man. The game plan to stop the Dream from winning. And the main thing they were doing on defense, the Indiana Fever, was trying to collapse the defense on the bigs. Now, I get it. Brittany Griner, Bree Jones, they cooked us the first time we ever played them. And, you know, they are a really tough front court. But my thing is, if you have Jordan Canada shooting the way she was shooting from the three, just adjust, all right? Change the game plan, fam. You cannot continue to try to collapse.
When the team's top passer thinks the shoelaces are more fascinating than the offense, you know something is wrong. The protest is hushed. Like, okay, you can isolate now. While you hurl another contentious brick, I'll be down here reading the laws of physics and tightening my Air Jordans. Who knows? For the simple reason that Howard acts more like she's being coached by a fantasy league commissioner than her real coach. It's not a chemistry issue. It's an extreme case of a research experiment gone wrong. Howard is out here playing the air guitar repeatedly while Caitlin is attempting to conduct a symphony. The irony is that buckets are produced when Clark does, in fact, get the ball back on the infrequent occasions when the sun aligns with Mercury in retrograde. Buckets that are simple, elegant, and smooth. Howard, however, appears intent on treating those occasions like infrequent Pokemon sightings rather than expanding on that. Fun, but too risky to pursue.
Against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game. Once that started clicking, the Fever ran away with things. Sophie Cunningham was everywhere. Clark had it going with Aaliyah Boston again. Kelsey Mitchell was cooking. And all of a sudden, you look up and the Fever are lighting up the scoreboard. But you saw Clark sort of gaining her rhythm as the game went along, sort of returning to her form as the game went along, finding that pep in her step as the game went along.
As a result, Clark must do magic with few touches, make plays in the exact 5 seconds that the ball is in her possession, and all the while feigning ignorance of her own teammates' glaring shade. To be honest, Clark could have just brought donuts to a business meeting if she wanted to be disregarded and underutilized. You could cut the delusion with a Gatorade bottle cap, because it is that thick. Not to mention that this is not the first game that has occurred. There is a whole playlist of scenes in which Howard attempts to portray a solo act gone off-screen while Clark is iced out. It's similar to playing a two-player video game in which one player controls everything while the other just flings snacks at the screen.
On both ends of the floor. And I think you've seen it in spells. But again, now we reintegrate C, we reintegrate DD, and we've got to be able to
reintegrate C, reintegrate DD. No. You keep like Caitlin Clark and Dantas is not the same type of thing. Dantas is somebody that got to get in where she fit in. Yeah, she needs to be reintegrated and figure out, okay, this is what they doing. Caitlin Clark don't need to figure out, oh, this is what they doing. Y'all, this thing was supposed to be built upon Caitlin Clark's strengths. It's that simple. It's that simple. What's wild is you had the easiest.
Oh, but she's not worried. Clark, as if it were the NBA Finals. She is stooping to tie those shoes, sweetie. That isn't a loss. That is sarcasm wrapped in poise. This is tea drinking in the WNBA. Because she knows in her heart. She is aware that this experiment will ultimately fail. And who will be there to keep the crowd's attention and the stat sheet when it happens? Not the corner ball hog attempting to use tunnel vision to play point forward. That is the in-game version of bless your heart. And Howard, even though the entire basketball universe already knows who is creating gravity, she will continue to try to prove that she is the sun. To be honest, Caitlin could start bringing a folding chair in the middle of the day if she wanted to be petty. She could set up shop, cross her legs, and read a magazine titled How to Sabotage a Superstar in 10 Easy Steps every time she passes the ball. because we're dealing with that degree of ridiculousness.
I'm getting concerned about Caitlin Clark's future with the Indiana Fever, because it's not just that they're losing these games, it's the manner in which they're losing. It's the low shot attempts from Caitlin Clark. It's the low usage from Caitlin Clark. It's the having her in the corner, coming off these screens, getting the ball on the wing, and then her losing the basketball, keep getting the ball in these unfavorable positions. She is at her best when she's pushing it up the floor, coming off the screen with the Leah Boston. You're not even doing that anymore. It seems like the Indiana Fever aren't prioritizing Caitlin Clark's growth as a player, but what they're prioritizing is the system of basketball that Stephanie White has ran throughout the entirety of her career.
The crowd never miss a beat during it all. Every time Clark does Houdini without touching the ball, social media goes crazy. As if it were a lunch table feud in middle school, she gets frozen out every time. Since the comedy practically writes itself when your generational player is subdued by her own colleague's ego, the memes write themselves. Caitlin doesn't flinch, though. She merely plays. When the game is at stake and the clock is running short, she simply takes over. Like she's tying up loose ends on a lousy storyline, she knots those shoes. Because the truth still exists regardless of whether Howard discovers it or not. Only when Caitlin Clark touches the ball does the performance begin. And it's okay if Howard continues to act like this is her squad. However, once the drama subsides and the laces are double knotted, don't be shocked when the actual takeover starts. Remove Tash Howard from the ground. Really, keep her out there if the Indiana Fever are doing a scientific experiment to see how many possessions one player can squander while dribbling in place. However, if this is basketball, someone should press the waiver button as urgently as if it were a fire alarm.
About that in the morning, bro. So much stuff happened behind the scenes between Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White. Then we got Sophie Cunningham speaking to the media tonight, but so much stuff happened.
Like a persistent plumbing problem, she clogs every lane. Somehow, Howard's game devolves into chaos and congestion the moment Caitlin Clark arrives. When she notices gaps, she seems to remark, "Oh no, we can't have that," then parks herself in the exact spot designated for Clark's passing lanes. As soon as she snags a rebound, she thinks it's her moment to shine. It doesn't matter if Clark is gesturing with her hands like a traffic cop holding a megaphone. Not at all. Like LeBron reincarnated in a fever dream, Tasha is moving slowly up the court and studying the floor before crashing into a double team and throwing up a floater that clangs so loudly it sets off car alarms outside the arena.
The business. You went and blew it. You went and just made the job 10 times harder than what it needed to be. I've never seen somebody fumble a incredible talent like this. Generational, once in a lifetime player like this. I've never seen somebody fumble the bag this easy. This was an easy bag. Stephanie White, this was an easy bag, bro. All you had to do was focus on the defense and let Kayla handle the offense. But you're fixated on this trash offense you brought from Connecticut that nobody wants to run.
And let's not even discuss her choice of shots. It resembles a roulette wheel where all the numbers have been swapped out for poor choices. While Howard continues to argue with the checkers board, Clark is merely attempting to play chess. An entire tiny city might be powered by the extreme energy mismatch. This is where things start to become heated. Howard finds Caitlin's groove when she's not on the floor. Alternatively, she thinks she does. More self-importance, more uncomfortable mid-range shots, and more touches that IT seems as though she is finally able to fulfill her ambition of being the offensive anchor, but instead of doing so, she is pushing the club to the bottom of the standings. She is this anti-chemistry squad's co-captain. Even while she doesn't block traffic like Howard, her inconsistency is a major problem. She auditions for the position of invisible forward 3 one night and is decent the next. She's wearing a jersey, but it's difficult to determine if she's playing basketball or just doing cardio. Take both out. All of a sudden you have a team. An actual team. One that performs plays rather than reenacting single montages, walks deliberately, and locates open shooters.